American Water Polo.
Hi, this is Damon Newman from American Water Polo, and we're here today with Tom Hyham from Lasalle University to help us better understand the college recruiting process. How you doing, Tom?
Great, Damon. Thanks very much for having me.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here. So tell me a little bit about yourself and LaSalle.
Sure. Yeah, my name's Tom Hyham. I'm the head men's and women's coach at Lasalle University. We just finished our fourth year of men's water polo, and we made it through about 3.5 for women's with the coronavirus situation. But I've been there for the last 2 seasons for both men's and women's. And I came from Huntington Beach, California, where I was a 18 and unders coach at Huntington Beach Water Polo Club.
Excellent. So tell me a little bit about tell me a little bit about the recruiting process. How does it work at LaSalle?
Yeah, the recruiting process starts pretty early on in a high school player's junior year, basically. It starts traditionally, legally by NC2A on June 15th at the end of your sophomore year is when coaches are actually allowed to start communicating with you and going through the process. But for the most part, the actual process itself begins about the middle of your junior year, and the best thing is to contact coaches that you're interested in playing for, and then go from there.
So, have you had so would you recommend the athletes start earlier during that process, or is it something? Obviously, your initial contact, you're bound by NCAA rules. However, they can reach out to you. Has it been something where you've seen, freshmen, sophomores reach out to you, or how does that work actually specifically for LaSalle?
Yeah, there's definitely younger kids that reach out, and there's most people that want to play in college are pretty eager, and so you'll start hearing from them, maybe freshman year, but definitely sophomore years, and then in earnest in junior years. And the good thing about that is, every coach has some system and how they track their recruits. And, I always call it the whiteboard. You're on my whiteboard. And so, if you're contacting me before I'm allowed to talk to you, you'll go up on the 2022, portion of my whiteboard, just as somebody that I know is interested. And then that'll just carry over into the next year. And it makes it a lot easier for me to be able to know the potential student athletes that are actually interested in coming to play at LaSalle and my program.
Okay, excellent. So what are you looking for, in a prospective student athlete? Like, what are some of the character traits that you're kind of drawn to, and you're looking to, potentially be a member of the team?
I mean, first and foremost, somebody that's a good student. That's right. The reason why kids go to school is to get their degrees, and water polo is kind of an advantage you have by being able to go to school. So for first and foremost is making sure that a student is going to be a good student when they get to your school, and it just makes things a little more difficult when you're dealing with eligibility issues because of academics. And we're watched pretty closely by the NC2A when it comes to GPA and that kind of thing too. So first and foremost, I like to make sure my players or my potential recruits are going to be good students when they get to me. And then of course, athletic ability. And when I say athletic ability, I don't mean necessarily somebody that's a great player today. Of course you have to know the game, but if you show good athletic ability, chances are, over the course of the next 4 years when you're playing in college, you can become, a great player. You can become, somebody that's not necessarily an impact your first year to being, potentially an All-American by the time you're a senior. And athletic ability is big when it comes to that. And so those are basically the things I look for most. And of course, having great water polo knowledge and great, expertise at it is also is a good thing. And so, there's a kind of a lot of factors that go into it, but those are the
Yeah. So first and foremost, you have to be able to handle it academically because, no coach, no coach wants to have to really hold their athlete's hand and really kind of take them to class per se, right?
Hmm.
Um, but you want to ensure that they're good academics first and foremost. I think that's a really, really important for
Absolutely.
athletes to know.
Absolutely. For sure.
So, I know you obviously have the athletes call you all the time, email you, send you text messages. How would you recommend an athlete prepare for, say, a phone conversation with you or your assistant coach? How would they prepare for something like that?
I think the best advice I could give when it comes to talking to a coach on the phone, I know for me, is I just want you to be yourself. I don't want you to put on a show for me. I don't want, I'm not necessarily worried so much about what a great player you are. I mean, you want to sell yourself as a player for sure, but I want it to be real. I want to know that you could potentially be flawed. I could want to know that you have a personality. I want to know that that you're going to be able to get along with me and the other players on the team. And so just making sure that you don't overthink your conversation before you actually have the conversation. Just be real, be yourself. If you're a shy person in general, then be a shy person on the phone. I mean that's going to be something that's important, that we know. And just because you may have a specific type of personality doesn't mean you're not going to be a fit. And so just don't overthink it. Just approach it just like you were talking to your buddy. And coaches like that. They don't want you to be nervous. They don't want you to be scared of them. They just want to be able to have a good conversation. And if you're able to lead it and ask questions and do things like that, that helps, typically quite a bit also.
Right, right. I think that's really good advice. So, right now we're in we're in the middle of the COVID outbreak, and there is some potential for some large tournaments to be canceled or postponed. What should a PSA do to be seen? Is it something where you're looking for highlight film or game film, or what would be your recommendation for an athlete maybe in their junior or senior year sitting here right now? Something you could tell them.
Yeah, I think knowing that there's going to be tournaments we're not actually going to be having, or coaches won't be able to go to, that I would tell a potential student athlete that's not the end of the world by any means. Normally, when a coach goes out to recruit at an event, Suc Junior Olympics or club championships or whatever it might be, they already are in contact with the student athlete. They're already, looking at that particular person. And so the best thing to do is to make sure that you have a good package to deliver. And what I mean by that is, make sure your athletic resume is up to speed. Make sure that, you've got everything on there. And an athletic resume can, consist of all your accolades through water polo, but also importantly, the academic accolades and, everything else that you've been doing over the period of your high school career. And then as far as video goes, to me, that's one of the biggest factors in me looking at a player, and what level I'll be looking at a player. Highlight videos are great. But I would say, and most coaches I think would agree with me, that if you can show game footage, that's even better. And the reason I say that is I like to see how you play away from the ball. I think it's great that you can score goals, and I think it's great that you can steal the ball, but I like to see your positioning away from the ball, and how you react to a turnover, and how you different things that you do away from the ball. And like I said, I think a lot of coaches feel the same way. The highlight videos are good. They could be bad in the same sense. And what I mean by that is if you're showing a highlight video of you scoring 10 goals and your shot mechanics are not great, and that's all I get to see, well, that could work against you as well.
Right.
But if I see game footage of you scoring goals and playing it away from the ball, that will potentially make me a little bit more keen to you, just in the sense that shot mechanics can be fixed. Whereas if that's all I know, and I don't know that you can play, good anticipation defense, or drive defense or, anything along those lines away from the ball, I may be a little bit less interested if all I'm looking at is a highlight video.
Yeah, I think that's a phenomenal piece of advice for athletes that are maybe looking to put a highlight reel together, and not, so much for coaches that want to see an entire game film, but like you said, if your shot mechanic is something where it might not be perfect, that coach might be watching that shot 10 times over again. So, yeah, give that coach a full view of what your entire water polo IQ might be.
Exactly. And again, you don't have to send a full 28-minute game or, anything like that. But, if you send 3 minutes of a quarter that you think you played well in, I don't need to see when you're sitting on the bench, the rest of the team play or that kind of stuff. And so whatever work you can do to make it easier for a coach to see your whole game. And in highlight videos, in a lot of cases, they'll put a little circle around, the player as they're moving in the water. And, if you do that in an actual game footage video too, it makes it a lot easier. And
right.
And like I said, even when you're away from the ball, that to me, that's one of the most important pieces of looking at video.
Right, because it's not just on-ball defense that you're looking for, or whatever that might be. So
that's right.
In a like a traditional year, there like we said, there might be some potential, tournaments canceled. What would be, where do you do most of your off-campus recruiting?
Yeah, it's interesting because I will typically make my on-campus recruiting schedule around who it is I'm going to see.
Okay.
Your Olympics is almost always going to be something that I go to just because it's a big hitter. There's just about everybody goes. I spend a lot of time out here at the local Pennsylvania tournaments just because I like the Pennsylvania kids. I think that your top Pennsylvania kids are going to be very coachable, developmental up to the point where they can be great athletes in college also. So I hit the Pennsylvania tournaments primarily because of that, and they're easy. They're right around the corner from me.
Right.
But I'll typically pick the ones that are going to be kind of low-hanging fruit for me. If I'm not going to go to a tournament, typically, if I don't know that I'm going to be recruiting somebody specifically from that tournament. And if somebody's put the effort into contacting me and it's somebody that I'm interested in, then I'm going to put the effort into going to see them play also. So I think, in the future, we're going to probably see more coaches heading out to areas like Texas. Chicago is also a fairly large area. I go down to Florida for the Sunshine State games. And so there's other areas that I think there's high level talent other than just California also.
Right.
California's kind of an easy one just because there's a lot of stuff going on out there.
Right. So as areas in the country grow, larger pockets, you're seeing yourself potentially going to those, those non-California, states.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting, especially on the East Coast, because most of the top players you see, or a lot of the top players you see out here on the East Coast, aren't from California.
Right.
Now, that being said, huge talent out in California, and I do recruit. I have some contacts out there that just from being out there, but there's talent everywhere. It's not just in California. And
that leads me to my next question. Say you have a PSA who might not, who wants to play in college, whether it be Lasalle or somewhere else, and they don't have the opportunity to be seen maybe at a large national tournament or doesn't play at, say, like a big club that gets maybe some name recognition. What would be your advice to them?
I would tell them, I would approach it the same way, that I get my international players. I have 3 international players coming on my men's team this year and 1 on my women's team. And I, fortunately I was able to see the women's team player play down in Florida, but the 3 gentlemen that I've recruited, I did based all on game footage, recommendations from other coaches and that kind of stuff. And so I think if and again, there's another example is a Canadian player from Saskatchewan that I never got to see play. He's a phenomenal player. And, I was able to watch live feeds of his games.
Okay.
So there's ways around it for sure. And if it's somebody that has sparked my interest, to the point where I think they're a very viable candidate, then I'll have them send me a full game footage. Just put it up on YouTube, or do something along those lines so that I can just get a look and see what's going on. But I think live streaming is really another big way. I have a guy coming in from New Zealand who I've watched a couple games now on where he was live streaming from Australia, and got to see great footage that way. And truthfully, it's easier because there's less travel for me. I can sit in the living room and watch the game versus sitting on having to travel out to California or wherever else to go watch a game. And so I think when I had mentioned earlier, being able to put together a full package, a full recruiting package, is essential, especially for the areas that aren't necessarily going to get hit by a lot of coaches. And the highlight reels with Eye of the Tiger playing in the background and that kind of thing is all great. But again, game footage, make sure you have it. Just put it up on YouTube. I know when my girls were in high school, we used to go quarter by quarter and upload each quarter to YouTube. And it makes it a lot easier for a coach when they can't get out to see you.
I mean, yeah, you have a unique perspective, having been obviously a club coach at a large, highly competitive, team in Southern California, to then having your own children going through the recruiting process with Division I college coaches, and then you now being a coach. I guess this is a question I probably didn't. What's that been like for you? Just off the top of my head, you're probably you're in a more unique situation than say a lot of other coaches out there.
Yeah, it's been very unique, to be honest with you. It's
you've seen it from a lot of different angles, right?
Yeah, and of course, my daughters played at Huntington Beach Water Polo Club when they were coming up through their ranks, and both of them. I have three, but my two youngest have both played for me at Huntington Beach Water Polo Club, and so I've got experience coaching them, and now I'm coaching out here on the East Coast where both of them play, one at Bucknell and one at Marist, and now I, for the first time in my life, are coaching against them, and that definitely has been a unique experience, and
right.
Both of them
probably have watched them play against each other, right? I'm sure that does happen, right?
Yeah, and that's even worse. I'll be honest with you, because they were always on the same teams going up through high school and club, and seeing them play against each other is, we thought it was going to be the greatest thing in the world. We got to go see both our daughters play on two different teams at the same time, and as soon as the ball dropped, it was complete pandemonium for us.
Oh,
so,
that must be.
Especially since one's a goalie and one's a center, and so
right.
They're, if they're both field players or they're both goalies or that kind of thing, it might be a little bit different. But it's fun, but it's nerve-wracking at the same time. But we wouldn't have it any other way. We love being out here on the East Coast, and my daughters love playing at their schools, and I'm working to the point now where Lasalle is going to be putting both of them down, I think. So
that's good.
Hopefully that'll come pretty soon.
Yeah, that's the goal, right?
Yes.
That's awesome. Hey, final question before we wrap it up. What's life like for a student athlete, at LaSalle?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it's funny because I think many coaches have many different answers for this question, and I try to make LaSalle be a place where you can play competitive water polo, but not have water polo necessarily define you as a person also. Right. I know I want my kids to have a college experience while also playing water polo, and that's exactly what I want for my students at LaSalle also is I want you to be able to go have your college experience. You only get it once in your life, play level competitive water polo, but not have water define you if that's not what you want. I don't want you to have to worry about what classes you can take because of water polo. We've got it to the point now where we can work with anything, and the scheduling and the class level at LaSalle allow us to make it so that everybody can compete and everybody can play. And also you can still, LaSalle's big on nursing and one of the hardest programs to take. And, I have a couple nursing students on my women's team, and, and it works out. And so I don't want you to ever have to be worried that you're not going to get your end all be all from LaSalle.
Right.
Waterpolo ends in 4 years, and, your degree will carry you forever. And so first and foremost, be a student, have fun, be get the college experience that you're there to get. And then we'll make water polo work and be competitive for you too.
Awesome. Excellent. So if somebody is interested in LaSalle, what should they do next?
Yeah, the first thing to do would be to contact me. Just shoot me on an email, and the more information you can put in that email that would get me interested in you, the better. And that would include, give me your athletic resume, shoot me over the videos, the game footage and the highlights and that kind of thing. And that's how you get started. And unless you're going to be playing in the 2021 Olympics, I guess is what it is now.
Right.
Chances are we're not going to be actively searching you out. It's I have to know that somebody's interested in playing at LaSalle, which will make me interested in you. And so that's kind of another misconception, is that coaches are just out there, contacting players left and right just because they need to fill the rosters up. And that's not how it works. There's too many players out there that want to play in college. And so if you show interest in my program, I'm definitely going to show interest in you. And so the first thing to do is just make sure you're showing interest in my program, and you do that by shooting an email.
Right. And that, being proactive and not to harp on that, but you're a full-time coach, coaching the men and the women. And there's only so many hours in the day to coach both men and women's genders, right? So, having a PSA, being proactive, I think is a great piece of advice.
Yeah, and I'm fortunate to have two good assistants also with Andre and Lindsay, and and so once it's vetted through me or copy them. They do a lot of work also when it comes to recruiting, especially as we get into the nuts and bolts of it also. Once I'm sold on you, then Lindsay and Andre can help pick up from there also. Excellent.
Hey, Tom, this has been really informative, learning more about LaSalle. This is Damon Newman. Follow us on Instagram, our Facebook page, our website, AmericanWaterPolo.org. And remember, it's important to stay connected to what's important to you.